Oh,
I did the same thing. I pulled my hair down too.
I can
Sometimes
tell.
you just gotta let loose, you know. Right, Jim?
If I have issues
right.
again, I'm gonna get on my phone. So
Okay.
Okay.
We're good
I've got
we're good to go.
Very good. I can see we're on channel 21. We are on YouTube. Everybody's here, and at this time, I will at 6:30 p.m. On the nose. I will call the meeting to order for the March 2nd, 2021 Federal regular meeting. Welcome everybody. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the
of the
flag.
United States of
United
America
States of America.
and to the republic
And to the republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
Under God.
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice
for
all.
Oh, that was bad.
I thought that was pretty good, Council President.
As I like to say all the time, the perfection is in the imperfection. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. Okay, welcome everybody. We have under presentations, Port of Seattle. We've got the South County Fund update, and we have Allison Beeson, Senior Data and Policy Analyst, Andy Gregory, Senior Program Manager, Community Engagement, and Lays Aiden, Environmental Engagement Program Coordinator. Welcome. Stephanie and Thomas, are we?
Thomas is pulling them up. Yep, they're on the line. He's just unmuting them right now.
I see. Okay. Welcome, Allison, Andy, and Lays.
Hi.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. Go ahead, Allison. You want to get us kicked off?
Yeah. Do you guys have our PowerPoint that we sent you previously? Or
Yes, we do.
Do we need to share our screen?
We have received it electronically, but it would be good if you could share your screen as well,
The public.
Okay.
so the public could see it.
All right, Mayor, we're promoting Allison as a panelist so she can share her screen. Allison, are you able to share your screen?
Yep. It seemed like it kicked me out, but now I'm back on. So let me see if I can share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, now we can see. Yep, all ready to go. Allison, you there?
I'm showing Allison as unmuted, Mayor.
It sounds like Allison's lost audio. She's having trouble hearing the meeting.
Let's try. Let's see here.
Looks like we lost her. I could try. I have the presentation as well.
Perfect. Let me promote you, Andy,
Okay.
and I'm gonna. So you'll disconnect and then you'll rejoin as a panelist.
Okay. Okay, I have rejoined. Let me share my screen. Okay. Do you guys have the presentation up now?
Yes, yes, we do.
Fantastic. Okay. Do we have Allison back?
I'm not showing her on the meeting at this point.
Okay. Let me. She thinks she got kicked out. So why don't I get going? Maybe you guys can see. Maybe if she clicks back in through the original link, I can be the presenter, and then she can jump in when she gets back on.
Yeah, and Andy, as soon as she rejoins the meeting, I will promote her to a panelist as well.
Great. Okay, so thank you all for hosting us here this evening. It's a pleasure to be here virtually with you all, despite our wonderful technology glitches that we're experiencing here currently. My name is Andy Gregory, and thankful to have Allison with us here this evening. Elise was unable to make it due to a family emergency, but we'll go through our presentation as best we can and hopefully answer any questions that you might have about the South King County Fund and our first round of funding in 2020. So starting off by going through the past timeline of the South King County Fund, which I think I had the pleasure to present to this council about back in the summer of 2019, which seems like ages ago. The South King County Fund was created by the Port Commission in 2018. In 2020, early last year, and the original purpose of the fund was to support programs and projects near the airport that addressed airport noise, environmental health, and sustainability. Shortly after the COVID-19 crisis hit last year and the ensuing economic crisis, the Port Commission added economic development as one of the acceptable uses of the South King County Fund. And so in July of last year, we launched the Economic Recovery Grants Program. And then in October, we launched the Environmental Grants Program. Looks like Allison's back. Allison, do you want to pick it up from this slide?
Sure. Sorry about that. We're all kind of going through Zoom and technical difficulties back in this day. So with the South King County Fund, we had $1.5 million. We were able to put $1 million into economic recovery, $250,000 into environmental grants, and we worked with our partners in economic development where they put out money with existing partnerships with $250. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we had infused equity into this process with the South King County Fund. So we were trying to look at vulnerable communities by using equity mapping, where you look at various data points, collect those data points, and you're able to score a composite score. We used 1 through 10 to look at per census tract the South King County area. And that helped us understand what the disparities are within the area and how we can leverage our money to help those areas that have been historically disadvantaged over a period of time. Next slide. So with the Economic Recovery Program, we received 27 proposals. One of the things I think is really wonderful is that we advertised and interviewed all 27 proposals to allow people to speak their truth during their presentation, not just in written word, in case written word was not English was not their first language. And out of those 27, we recommended 10 proposals to the commission, and we're in the process right now of executing those contracts. And it equaled up to around $981,000. Next slide, please. So the one that is focused in El Centro, which is very exciting, is El Centro de la Raza established a new location in Federal Way to supplement their location that they had in Seattle. And so this fund is helping that location and focusing on construction and workforce development. They'll be working with Latinos in the community to do extensive outreach and education and to help people with pre-apprenticeship programs in port-related industries. And we're really excited about that. Next slide, please. In addition to just El Centro that's having their new office in Federal Way, we had these 5 applicants: African Community Housing and Development, Asian Counseling and Referral Services, Businesses Ending Slavery and Trafficking, Puget Sound Welcome Back Center, and Washington Maritime Blue, which is servicing all of the South King County area. So they will be doing work in your area too. And I'll turn it over to my partner, Andy, right now to talk about the environmental grants.
Great. Thanks so much, Allison. So I want to talk a little bit about the environmental grants program. So these grants were launched in October of last year, and this is an expansion of the Port's Airport Community Ecology Program, which was started by the Port Commission back in 2017 and was previously available to the cities of SeaTac, Burien, and Des Moines. And for this next iteration of this program, we expanded the grant service area to include Federal Way, Normandy Park, and Tukwila. And we expanded the grant caps from $10,000 up to $20,000. There is still a required match of 3-to-1 for all the projects that take place under this, and it's required that the projects take place on public property. So the statutory authority for the port to conduct this work comes from RCW 3521-278, which gives local governments really specific authority to enter into contracts with small community groups to do restoration and stewardship projects. One of the things that was really new about this work for the port, and a stretch and really a next step in our the way we conduct community engagement, is piloting a community liaison model. And so we worked with a consultant based in South King County, Alma Villegas Consulting, who has extensive experience in establishing these sorts of liaison style community engagement models between federal government and multicultural communities. And we hired and worked with 8 community liaisons that represented the Latinx, African American, Somali, Congolese, Korean, Bhutanese, Filipino, and Pacific Islander communities. And after extensive training, this group of folks went out and worked with their communities to introduce the idea of this environmental grants program, to help work through some of the complexities of the contracting and match and budgeting processes, and then to help drive traffic to our information sessions, and ultimately helped us to secure 6 applications from community liaison supported projects. So we saw a total of 16 proposals come across the finish line. 14 of those proposals were recommended to move on for contracting for a total of $218,000. And we're working on executing those contracts and hope to have them out the door next month. So here's a sample of the 4 projects that are going to be taking place in Federal Way. First, we have the Federal Way Korean Garden. So this was a project of the Federal Way Korean American Association. And this is a multi-year project to establish a new Korean garden on somewhere along the BPA trail. And this is an exciting project. It's going to be done in conjunction with their sister city in Korea. And we are looking forward to seeing the progress that they make this year on designing and beginning to break ground on the garden. Next is the Multicultural Self-Sufficiency Movement, or MSM, and they are planning a community garden in conjunction with the Evergreen Senior Center. And so they will be supporting the Senior Center to establish a public garden somewhere where folks can have access to healthy, safe, and culturally appropriate foods. And it's an opportunity to connect seniors with the earth and with the environment and with the younger generations. Next is the Puget Soundkeeper Alliance South King County Community Stewardship Project. And this project will be taking place in Tukwila, Burien, Des Moines, and Federal Way. And with this project, local youth are partnering with immigrant and refugee families to conduct waterway cleanups and water quality monitoring. And so that'll be done along the waterways and the beaches in the cities that are mentioned here. And finally, we have the TILF Alliance, which does a soil and water stewardship training program where they work with 20 volunteers who are going to be primarily multicultural folks from Federal Way, Burien, and Tukwila. And they will be targeting opportunities to work on and improve community gardens, as well as providing basic soil and water quality training and gardening training to individuals that participate in this program. So next steps with the program, we're looking at another round of economic recovery grants that are going to be launching in the summer of 2021. The total pot of available funding for this year is $1.25 million. And then another round of environmental grants taking place in the fall, which will be $250,000. So that's it for our presentation, and we would love to hear any questions that you have.
Okay. Council, any questions? Actually, could we take down the presentation? That way I can see the council. Thank you. Thanks, Andy. Okay. Let's see here. Council, any questions? There we go. Councilmember Sefadossin. And then Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I don't have any questions. I just appreciate the partnership that the port, not just the partnership, but I think what the port has put into investing to South King County and supporting South King County, especially those cities that are impacted by or that are neighboring cities to the airport. I think this investment will elevate all our communities. And I just want to say thank you for seeing the need and also trying to meet the need. So thank you so much and appreciate the presentation.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Andy, thank you so much for being with us. Welcome to Federal Way. As you can see, it's a beautiful, actually, this is virtual meeting, never mind. You know, I also appreciate the efforts and the focus in South King County. I mean, to be honest with you, sometimes speaking for myself, sometimes I feel like we're the forgotten area from King County. And so I appreciate the efforts that are being placed in South King County. So that being said, you know, on slide 9, talk about the community liaison model, and I'm obviously this outreach to the Latino community, the African American community, Somali, Congolese, Korean, forgive me, I don't know how to say that, Bhutanese community, if I said it correctly, thank you, the Filipinos. So me being the Eastern European, I just wonder, has there been discussions to reach out to an Eastern European populations that there's a very strong contingency here in our community, and we have a very large Vietnamese population here as well. So, but other council members can speak to that. But for me, what efforts is there to connect with that community, with the Eastern European community?
Thank you, Councilmember Moore, for the question. Great question. You know, as we chose our first round of liaisons, and remember, this is a really pilot program for the port. So first time engaging in such a really deep and equity-based partnership program. We worked through some existing relationships that the consultant had, as well as trying to identify, you know, the top demographic, cultural groups and linguistic groups in the area, right? And as always, you have to sort of pick a handful to start with. And so it's certainly our vision to expand this pool of liaisons to really deepen the connections through this model. I will also tell you that in addition to this deep engagement through the liaison model, we translated all of our materials into the 8 top tier languages spoken in King County. We also did paid and earned advertising and marketing in several ethnic media outlets throughout South King County. So we look forward to partnerships and any connections that you or your constituents may have within the community. So I think maybe we're due to come back with a follow-up sometime before we launch the next round with this opportunity so that you can all share with your networks, which I would be happy to do.
And Andy, I'm sure your contact is on this PowerPoint, I would imagine.
If it's not, I'll be sure to send it to you probably through Dave Kaplan, who's our contact with the city there.
And I appreciate that. And just the last comment, Mr. Mayor, and that's, you know, obviously our community is extremely diverse, and I totally respect that you're taking the most, I don't know what word to use, visible ethnic communities by the numbers from various sources. So I appreciate that. But You know, as you know, Andy, our community is incredibly diverse, and obviously, if our vision is to be equity, let's show that by connecting with various minority entities. So, thank you so much for your work. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council President Honda, then Councilmember Kuchma. Councilmember Honda? Council President Honda?
Thank you. When will the next round of applications open, and how would a community get prepared to write an application? Is there something they can be looking at now?
Sure, great questions. We're looking at launching the next round of economic recovery funding in sometime around June or July of this year. So it'll be sometime during the summer. And then the environmental grants will be available in the fall, probably September or October. One of the things that we're going to be working on this year in advance of the applications being open is to provide some additional technical assistance to groups, especially groups that are new to writing grant applications. You know, this is one of the primary barriers for equitable grant making, no matter where you're doing this work, but especially in South King County, where, as you've all noted, and we recognize, there are linguistic and cultural barriers to participation in such a let's face it, such a bureaucratic process, right? And so we're going to be providing a series of technical assistance, office hours, and outreach opportunities to drive traffic to those office hours in advance of the application phase opening, so that folks have a chance to vet ideas, think through some of the requirements, and receive some additional technical assistance. And then during the open application phase, we do things like host public information sessions and other opportunities to help to answer and demystify what's quite honestly a complicated process of applying for a grant. So we have tried our best to make the application materials as simple as possible. You know, the application for the environmental grants is only 2 pages long. It's got 3 or 4 questions on it. The economic recovery grants, we're going to be simplifying a little bit more this year, and trying to encourage some smaller organizations to apply.
Thank you for that. And if your organization has already applied and has been given a grant, are they eligible to get more funding?
Yeah, we are looking into multi-year funding for organizations, sort of capacity building style grants. But at this point, having a prior grant does not preclude you from applying in the future. Each application would be considered on its own merit in each year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kuchma.
Thank you, Mayor. So Andy, I'm wondering, you know, for the economic recovery portion of your work, I totally, for the environmental, I totally love gardens, community gardens, and the, you know, the camaraderie that brings and the feeling of accomplishment. But for somebody who's, you know, first a new immigrant who doesn't speak the language, it's difficulty finding a job, is there any way that you could have some of your economic recovery grants tailored to help them find a job, or kind of teach them how to be a barista or how to work in a restaurant? Is there anything that you might kind of redirect toward something that would provide them with, you know, a job?
Yeah, totally. So great question. I just want to acknowledge, it looks like Allison got booted off the call again, wasn't unable to rejoin, but just economic recovery is her world. I'll try to answer as best I can. What we saw in the applications and the projects that were funded are organizations that provide economic development, workforce development style programs, and really specialize in doing just what you said, which is working very closely with primarily immigrant refugee communities to provide all of the wraparound services that are required to get good paying jobs. You know, as the Port of Seattle, we're a primary, you know, economic driver in the region. but as a special purpose government, we're really limited in funding only organizations that support port-related industries. And those include aviation, maritime, construction, and green jobs. And so what we were really looking for were applications that were at the intersection of serving low income and communities of color, as well as other intersectional folks with disabilities, other access issues, in order to provide those key services to get them jobs and get them employed, trained, and ready for employment in port-related industries.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. I think that that's very important, especially now with President Biden's emphasis with the fourth stimulus package being for $3 trillion in infrastructure improvements. We may have a very big need for people who are trained, for example, in carpentry, or trained in the construction industry. That's going to be port related, or just construction, on our roads in general. And so trying to tie that all together with the amount of money that's going to be flowing in from the federal government, I think that would be a really good way for you to help a lot of folks. Anyway, thank you, Andy, for listening. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just like to maybe close by saying that, that's really the priority for the port, is to see those jobs come from skilled workers in South King County, from the diverse communities in South King County. And that's really what we see as the opportunity of this fund, is to really build the local workforce for those jobs of the future.
All right. Thank you, Andy. I very much appreciate it. Tell Allison we said thank you as well. I appreciate your presentation.
Okay, cheers. Thanks for your time tonight.
All right, thank you. Okay, now moving on to the mayor's emerging issues and report. Last Thursday, I gave the State of the City address. It was on February 25th. And actually, it is running on Channel 21 now. And also, you could see it on YouTube, on our the federal YouTube station, and also on Facebook Live. You can go to my mayor's page on Facebook Live. So all you'd have to do is just Google Mayor Federal Way State of the City address. You can watch it. So thank you to council for being there, and for your support and help. Also, and all the things mentioned in the speech wouldn't have been possible without your policy assistance. So thank you very much. Also, thank you to the staff for all their help in making the State of the City. It was interesting that the year before we had well over 700 people at the Performing Arts and Event Center, and it is an interesting experience to give a State of the City address and into a camera, into a very few, just with a very, very small audience at the in the council chambers. So anyway, I thought it was very successful, and please let if anybody has any questions or comments regarding the content or about the State of the City, please let me know. All right. A special thank you to Steve McNay and Bill and Pam and Kathy in my office, and also Thomas and your entire IT team for helping to make that happen. COVID-19 update. We had a conference call with a Zoom meeting with Director of Public Health for King County, Patty Hayes, this morning. I'll turn this over to Ray in just a few moments, but we actually, like I said, received an update from Ms. Hayes. She actually said that King County ranks just behind the Honolulu area regarding big city areas controlling the virus spread, that hospitals are in pretty good shape. Nursing homes are in much better shape. There's hopeful news with regard to the decreasing numbers out of nursing homes. As far as the doses update for vaccine updates, 327,000 King County residents have received at least one dose. 166,000 have been fully vaccinated with with two doses. And let's see here, breaking it down by age groups, 59% of King County residents 75 and older have received at least one dose. 52% of King County residents 65 and older have received at least one dose. 493, so just shy of 493,000, just shy of 500,000, have been administered to King County residents. That's at least one dose. or I would say that's doses, 31,000 in the last 31,000 doses in the last 7 days. In the Federal area, Auburn, Kent, and Federal Way is in the same geographical database area. And for folks 16 plus, 14% have been vaccinated at least once. 65 plus in the 3-city area, 46% in Federal Way or in the 3-city area, and over 75, 54.9%. So actually, very good. So at the vaccination sites that they have right now, they're able to do about 2,000 vaccination sites. The mass vaccination sites in Kent and Auburn. And we have they can do 2,000. When they get Lumen Field up, they think they can get up to, if everything goes correctly, 20,000 shots per day. So it's good. So they can even get to 50,000 per week at least. So it was good briefing from Patty, and it's always good to hear from her. Several of our council members were on the line as well. With that, I will turn it over to Ray to give his update. Ray?
Good evening, Mayor, Council President, Council members. I will give you a brief update. Hopefully I don't repeat what the Mayor said. If I do, please let me know and I'll stop and move on. Hopefully I can share my screen here. Oops. This one.
And then close on that. And then presentation. Perfect.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes. Well, actually, you've got two up at the same time.
Oh.
Got a big screen and a little screen.
So.
Ray, can you? There's an option to switch that right at the top of the screen, Ray.
Yeah, one of your IT people are working on it.
There you go.
Okay, how do I go reverse?
Arrow key left.
It's not backing up.
Go on the screen on the left hand side. And then just click will bring you forward. On the arrow, see on the left hand screen there? Arrow forward. Yep, there you go.
All righty. So these are the numbers. King County is still focused on closing the gap between first and second doses. And one of the things in the briefing that I found very interesting, and it strikes at the capacity. In King County, there are 371 approved vaccine providers. And as of today, only 24 of those providers are actually receiving vaccine and giving them out. So that kind of shows you both the capacity that's here in King County, as well as the supply being far below that capacity. Those numbers do not include the federal pharmacy partnership. This is still the slide for the phases. We are still in 1B Tier 1. In the meeting today, Phase 1B Tier 2 and 1B Tier 3 are being heavily looked at, so kind of expect some additional categories to be included in those two tiers. As everyone should know, Johnson & Johnson has been approved, and Washington State's going to receive about 60,000 plus vaccines of Johnson & Johnson. The nice thing about that is it's a one-shot vaccine. King County is looking at receiving of Johnson & Johnson between 17 to 18,000 doses. King County is considering the homebound elderly population receiving those, whereas Washington State's kind of looking at the maritime industry, since they're out at sea for such significant amounts of time. They think that's a good population to vaccinate with the one shot and be done with it. The other thing that's nice about Johnson & Johnson is during its trials, one segment of its trials was in South Africa and in the UK. So they have been tested against all variants of concern and have shown to be effective against those variants. Pfizer and Moderna are both considering developing booster shots. Now, if they continue on that plan, that should be available in this fall or winter. The other part of this slide is a lot of the private pharmacies, Walmart, QFC, Albertsons, Health Mart, Rite Aid, have been included in the federal pharmacy partnership and are now receiving vaccine here in the state of Washington. So the availability of providers is growing. We just need the vaccine supply line, which today they were saying is there are no longer checkpoints in delivery. The capacity's there. The big focus now is on production. Several other large pharmaceutical producers are teaming up with the current approved providers, the Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, to help in that production. As far as the Healthy Washington Roadmap to Recovery, last week, the governor put a pause on if a region fell short of a couple of areas. He put a pause on rolling back. So we're going to be in phase 2, even if we miss a couple of markers, and that's statewide. And there's still no detail, at least not that I've heard, on what phase 3 looks like or how to get into phase 3. These are some of the numbers, as the mayor touched on. We've been in a nice, decent downward slope in pretty much all the numbers. Just a couple things of note. Our highest one-day positive count was December 2nd, 2020, and that was 103 positive cases in one day. And our current numbers are pretty much back where we were in April of last year. So that's a good sign. The one thing that, as I'm tracking these numbers, it's a little concerning is right about the end of October until now, the number of deaths have steadily increased closer together. I want to say we haven't had a day of 3 deaths or more, but we've had our highest death count was 1 day of 3 with several weeks in between. But now it's gotten significantly closer between deaths. A couple other things that were brought up in this morning's meeting. There's 39 cases of the UK variant with 1 case of South African variant. They say they're doubling about every 10 days. The numbers at the CDC that track these variants really is not showing that doubling. And I think that's because of the positive COVID cases, 3 to 5% of those new cases, those new positive cases, are being tested for the genome of these variants. So just gonna leave that there, but they are there. The UK, I want to say, the last time I checked, is about 2,400 cases in 46 states. And with that, Mayor, that concludes my report for the COVID update.
Okay. Thank you, Ray.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. Thank you, Steve, for bringing me some tea. I've got the perpetual cough this evening. Okay. Let's see. We got those numbers. We're watching the COVID situation very closely. We had our city council retreat. It was a very good retreat, actually. We were on Saturday. We're going to have several others. We had our facilitator, Andrew Ballard, here, and we had, obviously, it was a remote or Zoom retreat, and it was a good opportunity to, it was kind of a training and also discussion from the council and a little game to start off with. Actually, I will turn it over to Council President Honda to talk about the council retreat. Or did you have a question?
I did have I had a statement on the COVID situation.
Yeah. Yes.
That the governor has now will allow teachers and caregivers to get the vaccine. And in case people haven't heard that, I think that's groundbreaking for our state, and I'm hoping that it will allow our schools to reopen and allow parents to have their kids back in school if they choose to do that. That'll be a decision parents need to make, but I hope it moves our schools closer to opening by allowing that. And I know Councilmember Moore had his hand up too.
Yeah.
So
I see that. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councilmember Moore. Thank you very much. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much. And just for the record, I may have to switch iPads. Mine is about to die, but just wanted to let you know that right now. My question really is for Ray, and that's or the mayor actually, and that's I've heard some talk about the PAC place being available for vaccines, and Mr. Mayor, I know that you've been working quite hard on that and being vocal about that, to my understanding. And so I just wondered what's the latest on that, and what's King County's take on that?
It's a great, actually, thank you very much, Council Member. I almost called you Martin. That's a great question, because that was actually, it was made pretty clear with Lumen Field coming online, and it's going to be 20,000 a day, up to, if all the factors are right, with Kent and Auburn fully operational. It was pretty clear from the King County's presentation that it does not look like they're going to use the PAC. However, in communications, who does want to use the PAC, CHI Franciscan. So next Monday, this coming Monday, the 8th, is when the community center, our community center, starts to really get going, and they'll start to utilize that full location at the community center. But just today, we found out from Dr. Ananth, the deputy director over at the hospital with the CHI Franciscan, they would like to explore their own utilization of the PAC, not King County's, but CHI Franciscan. So very timely. So those discussions, John, can you tell us anything about where we're at with those discussions, or would that summarize it?
That pretty much summarizes it, sir. The boom up. You pretty much summarized it. We're going to be getting started, and then they want to explore as the vaccine becomes more available. They would like to explore potentially moving over to the PAC in May or June. So we're excited to work with them. They started moving in their equipment into the community center already, in anticipation of starting on Monday of next week, the 8th. So we're very excited to work with them. They've been good to work with, and look forward to continuing that and getting our community healthy again. So
very good. Okay.
Great.
Very timely question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Now, as to the council retreat, Council President Honda, would you like to maybe summarize?
Sure. Well, you did a good job so far.
Okay.
We started with the game, and the mayor won. How could he win? It was really frustrating for me because I would push a button and I knew right away that I needed to change it and I couldn't change it. So I will have your gift cards in tomorrow. I didn't do it today. I forgot to do that. So I'm sorry about that. But the mayor won. I believe Lydia came in second and Leandra came in third. So awesome. I think that it was a good first start for a retreat on Zoom. I have watched several other councils having retreats on Zoom, and I think we got off to a good start because it was a learning session for us, and we can build, if we have to have our next retreat on Zoom, to the visioning and planning for the city. And I've watched other cities do that, and I know what works, what I think works, and what I think doesn't work to do visioning and planning on Zoom. So I do think it was a good retreat. I haven't heard any complaints so far, so obviously others thought it was also a good retreat. Andrew is a good facilitator, and he knows us pretty well. This is his third or fourth time with us. But this is the first of 3 planned retreats this year. The next retreat will hopefully will be on diversity, inclusion, and inclusion. And then our third retreat hopefully will be on planning and visioning for the city. But that, we need to find out, if we can meet in person eventually, and when it would make sense to do those retreats. So thank you very much. I'd like to thank staff for all of their help. Without the staff support, these things don't happen. So our staff is awesome. Thank you, Jerry Lynn, for all of your support and your help. You are amazing to work with, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. Yes, great staff support. Thank you very much. And that does conclude my report. Let's move over to council committee reports. We've got Parks, Recreation, Human Services, and Public Safety, and that is Councilmember Kochmar.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Our next meeting will be next Tuesday, March 9th at 5 p.m. We're going to have a little update from Chief Pennington from the fire department about South King County Fire. We're going to talk about purchasing a truck for the police department. We're discussing an interlocal agreement with Public Health of King County regarding the mobile medical program, an interlocal agreement for the purpose of pooling sales tax receipts with South King Housing and Homeless Partners to administer funds. And then we're going to talk about the updated program year 2021 for the Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan. So that's what's on our future agenda. Tonight on our agenda is our appointment of our Human Services Commissioners. And thank you to all those people who applied. I'm always amazed at the quality of people who apply for our commissions. Thank you very much, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, Land Use and Transportation Committee, LUTC, Councilmember Baruso.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had our meeting last night at 5 o'clock. We will be bringing to the consent agenda for our March 16th meeting to the City Council 3 items and also a first reading of the ordinance. Tonight, we have on our agenda of public hearings, item A, the Federal Way Link Extension Development Agreement alteration number 2. And under council business, items B and C, the Washout Traffic Busters Agreement update, and then C is also the asbestos removal property that we have on the 296 and 18th. It's a nuisance over there. We have to get rid of that one. And under ordinances, we have a first reading, which also came from our LUTC meeting. It's the Federal Way Link Extension Development Agreement alteration number 2. And for our second reading, it's the speed limit ordinance amendment, Council Bill number 798. Our next meeting for LUTC will be on April 4th, 5 o'clock, and of course it will be Zoom, Mr. Mayor. And that's all I have.
Very good. Okay. Now we've got Finance, Economic Development, Regional Affairs Committee. That is Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So our committee met on February 23rd. We approved 3 items, and we forwarded those items to the full council for your consideration today. They are the AP vouchers from January 16, 2021 to February 15, 2021, payroll vouchers from the 1st of January until the 31st of January this year. Monthly financial report. This is the final December 2020. And the last item is the Historical Society of Federal Way funding. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, committee members, council president, and other council members for asking really good questions before and during the FedRAC meeting. To me, part of our responsibility is to make sure that the money we spend appropriately, and I think for the most part we are doing a really good job of doing that. And I also want to thank staff for their responsive in terms of responding to our questions and concerns. So thank you, Ade and Chase, for that. The committee also discussed a little bit about the utilities tax rebate program. So to make the long story short, the committee asked Senior Commission for their recommendation 90 days from the meeting. So I would assume hopefully we'll receive the recommendation from the commission by no later than May of this year, so that we can share with staff and staff can do analysis and come up with the recommendation to our committee. So our next meeting is going to be on March 23rd, 2021 at 5 p.m. on Zoom. And that is conclude my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Now it's time for Lodging Tax Advisory Committee report. That's LTAC, and that is Councilmember Sefadawson.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, March 10th at 10 o'clock. And what we have on the agenda tentatively is Washington State University's report on event-based tourism, off-season opportunities for Federal Way. So they'll be presenting that to the LTAC committee, and that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, the regional committees report, that is Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I will first start by saying thank you to my colleague, Councilmember Lydia Sefadawson, for joining me at this meeting. Some of you will know that she is the alternate to the pick, so if I'm not able to attend, I call on the best of the best, Councilmember Lydia Sefadawson, who will attend and represent the city of Federal Way. And she's been very gracious with her time. She's been attending every single meeting when she's able to, and of course, thanks to Council President Honda for attending and keeping a watchful eye on behalf of our city of Federal Way. So thank you to those two individuals. The next pick, Public Issues Committee, is going to be March 10th, 2021, in case you might have forgotten the year, at 7 p.m. And that, of course, will be over Zoom. So very much looking forward to that. The agenda is not ready just yet, but it'll be ready quite soon. An interesting tidbit, and I'll hand it back to you, Mr. Mayor, is that at the last city council meeting, I had shared that there's been a long time effort of creating the King County Regional Homeless Authority, and the governing committee and the implementation board have recommended Ms. Regina Cannon, and she at the time is currently the Chief Equity and Impact Officer at the Center of Social Innovation, better known as C4. And so she's been offered the CEO job, but she has turned it down. So now the decision will be going back to the King County regional homeless authority, and they will move on in their next step. I will continue to keep the public here in Federal Way and the City Council apprised of that. And with that, I will end my report. Thank you.
Okay. Council President report.
Thank you. Yeah, I was quite sad to hear that she turned that position down. I listened to both the candidates. SCA had a meet the candidates one afternoon, and I really liked her. I thought she was great and would be a great fit for us. So I'm sad that she turned it down. I think she would have been pretty good for us. So if you don't know me by now, you do know that I really do like to encourage council members to take any classes that they can that are offered. And on Thursday, MRSC is offering a class on roles and responsibilities in local government. It does cost $35 and scholarships are available. But if you want to go to it, you need to let Jerry Lynn know by tomorrow. And it is going to be 11 to 12. So they try to do those during lunch hours. So for people that are working could perhaps take their lunch during the class. If you sign up for it and you can't take it at that time, you can always watch it later. And so if you're interested, please let Jerry Lynn or myself know. I think it would be worthwhile to watch. On Friday, the Sound Transit will be releasing the OMF South Draft EIS report. That's coming on Friday, and we will have a special council meeting at our next council meeting for a discussion on this with Sound Transit. This is really important that we let the public know as soon as it's released that they can look at it. There's a very short time to get in transit, but it's really that we get the public involved in this. Our goals is to work on this and to get this OMF at the Midway landfill and not here in the city of Federal Way. So watch out for that. And happy birthday, Federal Way. Sunday was Federal Way's birthday. So happy birthday, Federal Way. Thank you.
Good. All right. And yours too.
Yes, mine too. But you know, the city's more important. This is the council meeting. So thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you. Okay. Now for the most important part of the evening, the public comment. Stephanie, how many do we have?
We have 3 on the line, Mayor. We have Julie Vance. She'll be first, followed by Trinice Rogers, and then Cynthia Ricks-Magatan is the last we have.
Very good. Okay. Ms. Vance.
Mayor, I've allowed Julie Vance to speak. She will just need to unmute her phone. She's calling in via the phone.
Is it #6 or *6?
So we believe *6. There she goes.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Thank you. I have addressed the City Council members many times in the past, and I'm going to bring up another subject that is very dear to me, and I'm a lifelong resident of Federal Way, lived here most of my life, and I'm now 73. I know a lot of people in Federal Way, and I know that there's a lot of people that are very upset, and I spent quite a bit of time talking to Shelley at City Hall this morning about the garbage and the trash, and I was really, really upset over going to Safeway store on 320th this morning, where one of our transit bus stops was absolutely piled high with junk, and a man was sitting there taking up the whole sitting area in a very frightening picture. In fact, I took a picture of it and sent it to Shelley today. I would be very frightened to go to that bus stop. And there are 2 or 3 more bus stops in Federal Way where drug abuse is going on, where drug dealing where people are camping and living there. And I understand and realize that there are a lot of homeless people and that they need help, and I know Federal Way is trying to help them. But where do I fit into the picture? Where do my neighbors fit into this picture? Where do the people that love Federal Way fit into the picture when our city is slowly turning into a cesspool? I mean, if there's anything that I can do to help, I know that we have people out there picking garbage up and trying to make it, but there's very few comments good about what our city looks like today. I'm embarrassed, and I know all my friends and neighbors are embarrassed. We try to take care of what we can do, but the bus stop over by McDonald's, I walk the streets, and I've taken many pictures in the last 20 years and brought them to the city council meetings. Our new park right below the PAC, the town center, I walked the track down there. They've taken over the shelter, the picnic tables down there, because they can plug their cell phones in. It's awful because there's children playing right there. Something's got to be done. I want my tax money to go to something like that. I know that there's a lot of different ethnicities and we're trying to accommodate everybody. It's high time the people of Federal Way got accommodated, because we're now getting to the point where we're ashamed of our own city. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, Julie, thank you very much. Actually, we received, just so the public and council knows, we received 4 complaints, at least 4, of that bus location right there on 320th by the gas station. That bus stops, actually, that bus stop and the others that you mentioned are, especially the covered areas, are the responsibility of Metro. We called them 4 times to get that cleaned up. We finally just went over and took care of it ourselves. When our people got over there today, the individual was still over there and did not want to engage in a physical confrontation with him, and the police were called over. So then we, early this afternoon, about 2 o'clock or so, we got it all cleaned. We just cleaned it up ourselves. I'll be drafting a letter to King County Metro, letting them know that if they cannot keep these locations clean, we're going to have to remove the shelters, because you are correct. The one over there off of Pack Highway and 324th, the one on 320th, right by the AM/PM, the one on 23rd. There are several locations in our community that this is becoming a chronic issue. I will tell you that we have hired code compliance people. It was included in the budget. We're cleaning up the shopping carts. We actually hired in the supplemental budget last year 2 people whose sole job is to drive around the city and pick up trash. We got a truck, and that truck gets filled up, the last time we checked, about twice a day. So we've got people, and we actually just launched, after working on it for a long time, the Eyes on Federal Way app. So if you haven't downloaded that app yet, Eyes on Federal Way, Julie, I would really recommend that you do that. We have put our money where our mouth is. We've got, this is something that, with regard to the graffiti, we get graffiti off the walls and off the structures within 24 hours as soon as we find out about it. All of these, whenever we get anything reported on Eyes on Federal Way, we get it done, hopefully within 24 hours. So we received 89 complaints last week, and every Monday I get a summary of all of the Eyes on Federal Way complaints, and as well as the pictures of any graffiti that shows up anywhere in the city. So I can tell you that we're all in on making sure that we've got a clean city, and so is the council. So thank you, Julie, for this. So what I'd ask you to do is, if you see any garbage around town, you do Eyes on Federal Way. If you don't want to do Eyes on Federal Way, send me an email and I'll forward it on. We'll input it ourselves. So thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Next. I believe it's Trinice, right?
Trinice Rogers is up next.
Hi, Trinice.
Just waiting for her to unmute real quick. Trinice, you might need to press *6. She is still muted, Mayor.
Is she on the phone?
Yes, she is. Oh, there she is. She's good.
There we go.
Hi.
Hi, Trinity.
Hi.
There you go.
Hello. Good
Hi.
evening, Mayor Farrell. Hi. Good evening,
Hi.
Mayor Farrell, Council President Honda, and council members. As chair of the Diversity Commission and on behalf of the Diversity Commission, I would like to say thank you for supporting the Black History Read Out Loud Storytime series. I would like to give a special thank you to council members Greg Russo, Leandra Kraft, and Lydia Asafa Dawson for actively participating by submitting their videos. Their ability to demonstrate vulnerability and inclusion was deeply appreciated. So thank you. I want to encourage the public to watch the videos on the city Facebook and Instagram. There you will find videos and readings from members of the police department as well as fellow diversity commissioners. And again, just thank you so much. It was great. And again, we're looking forward to next year. I have another comment. Is that okay? A separate comment. This is just me as a citizen. Is that okay?
Yep.
Is that okay?
Of course.
Okay. So it was interesting hearing from Julie. It's along the lines of homelessness. And so I want to address the homelessness in the community. As you all know, there's different types of homelessness. We have homelessness women with children who are served through the Fusion. We have homeless individuals who live with families and friends. We have homeless individuals that sleep in their cars in local parking lots. We have homeless individuals who live in local hotels, and then we have the homeless individuals who sleep outside in encampments, bus stops, and in plain sight throughout our community. These are men and women who typically don't have children in their custody. I would like to just touch on the latter, homeless population in the area, and I would like to further address that. Along the lines of Julie, as we all know, as a city, we're pursuing a vision of being a bigger, brighter city on a hill, and we need to consider the pros and cons as it relates to the homelessness. Big city aspirations come along with big city problems. So the out of sight, out of mind approach is not serving us well, or has not served us well. Pushing homelessness out of our city limits has proven to be a failure as well. Many local residents want to be part of the solution. Please consider offering a more inclusive process for everyday citizens to engage in the problem-solving process. Homelessness is inhumane, and at times it's a public threat. Allowing a more inclusive process for everyday citizens to engage in the work to combat homelessness can be empowering and healing for many that have seen firsthand the suffering of homelessness throughout our community. Our community is full of good-hearted people ready and willing to serve. So with that, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, Janice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cynthia Ricks McAtan is next, Mayor.
Right. Hello, Cynthia.
Hello, Mayor Farrell. Hello, Council President Honda and the rest of the council members. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I want to reflect on this past year. It's almost a year now that our governor shut down the state because of the pandemic. And in a year, the city, with our resilient residents, with our community groups, with our youth and our teachers and our employers, banded together to figure out how the heck we were going to live under those restrictions. The city was able to get emergency funding to help with rental assistance, to stop people from being evicted and to prevent eviction, assistance for childcare, assistance to small businesses, especially concentrating on businesses that couldn't get funding through the CARES Act, or excuse me, the PPP, because maybe they don't have a relationship with the bank. I look at our community organizations and how they banded together to support scholars in their efforts to do distance learning and to find creative ways to reach out to our youth to make sure that they weren't suffering from being isolated, to figure out ways so that they could have creative interactions. While everybody might be zoomed out, it was a safe way to make sure that people could interact and be there for each other. The way that food banks popped up and hot meal sites and produce boxes were delivered and provided at different places throughout the city. How we just came together and said, we're going to handle this. And so here we are, 1 year out. And I just want to say, I'm proud to be a resident of the city of Federal Way. I'm proud of how we came together to support each other. I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish with vaccine sites, with testing sites, with supporting each other and trying to be there for each other. No, it has not been perfect. But I tell you what, compared to what we see other communities going through, I'm extremely proud of what we've done together. You all are resilient. Every single person who is hearing my voice right now, you are resilient, you are courageous, and I would encourage you to keep being safe, keep practicing social distancing, keep wearing a mask, and keep checking in on each other. I'm so, so proud of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Okay. Stephanie, any other comments?
No, Mayor, I only had 3 people signed up.
All right. Great. Thank you. Great comments. Thank you very much. 2 of the 3 actually involved that location, and I was hearing about it many times. That's a location I frequently drive by. I think we all probably see that location over there by AM PM, but the one on Pack Highway at 324th is pretty bad as well. EJ and I will be discussing this tomorrow to make sure we get a letter out to King County. It's concerning. There's been a longstanding issue with regard to whether the capacity of the trash cans, and not being, but what the pictures that were sent to us, this evening were, that Trinice actually forwarded to the full council. Pretty disturbing, so it's not good. So, okay. Item 6, the consent agenda. These items have gone through committee. They can be passed all-
Mayor, could I
Yes.
just, when you're investigating or looking into this thing, we also have folks that are sitting with signs asking for donations in the little tiny, if you drive into Safeway, right across from where there's like a small median, and they sit there in the median with their sign asking for donations. We need to address that because somebody's going to get hurt or killed, and we need to look at that before something happens.
Well, okay. If I can add to that, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Coachmore, thank you for that comments, because it's not just at Safeway; it's a few other places on 320th, and I do think it's a hindrance with vehicles, and so I do think that should be kind of looked at and whatnot. But I've been seeing that grow and grow every time I drive past it, specifically in the where the Old Navy location is, that entrance off of 320th. I think should be added to that. So thank you, Councilor Coachman, for mentioning that.
I would say that, and I think it is important to note that people have a constitutional right to stand on a public right of way on a side. I think it's important for people to understand that you can't arrest people or tell people to get off a public sidewalk. They have a First Amendment right to hold up a sign. Where they interfere with traffic and step into traffic is the issue. On the location you're referring to, right there by in the entrance and exit, it's usually the exit of coming out of the location, Celebration Center, I think it is, where the Old Navy is, and where Skechers is going to open up this Friday. Where people are right there on the sidewalk. So we will. I'll ask the chief to have his folks look at that, and we're not going to arrest people standing on a sidewalk. But I think what we can do is make sure that we, let people know, do not interfere with the flow of traffic.
If
Mayor?
if I may.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Councilmember Hoare first.
I spoke out of turn, Mr. Mayor. I apologize. But I was just going to say, I don't think anybody's talking about arresting or even alluding to that, because we all know, the 7 of us, 8 with you, know that it's a constitutional right. We've debated this topic before. I've proposed some ideas before. It's a constitutional issue, but I think it does impede on traffic, and I think that there's challenges there. So that should be reviewed. So thank you.
Very good. All right, thank you. Council President Honda.
Thank you. I would agree that it's probably it's getting to be a public safety issue if it hasn't been before. But for the trash at the metro stops, can we ask that they pick up trash once a day or every other day, or have a schedule that we expect that they follow? And if they don't follow, we pick up the trash and then charge Metro for that?
Let's talk to EJ about that. I think there's also the other area where we've got people essentially camping in these areas, and that's really becoming an issue. Okay. So EJ.
Thank you.
Yeah, Council President, we can look into it. We have discussed that with Metro historically, to somewhat no avail. It is their responsibility. They have a permit to have the shelter there, but that doesn't necessarily give us the right to be able to bill them for their failure to do it. As another government agency, so we can certainly reopen that conversation and talk internally about it and see if there's a pathway there. But yeah, I mean, I think we're all after the same end goal of getting the structures clean and in a sanitary condition for the public to be able to use them. And that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, because this has been an ongoing issue. This has been going on for quite some time, and I don't see it getting any better at all.
Agree.
Okay, thank you.
Right. That's why we may just need to take the structures out, and we'll figure it out. EJ and I will communicate with them. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Oh, Councilmember Stefanos. Go ahead, Council President Honda first.
Thank you. I understand that the idea of taking the structures out would stop the immediate problem of having someone who's without shelter being in there, but there's a point which we need to, for those citizens who use it and need to be there to ride Metro, and it's rainy or cold or whatever, they have a right to have shelter from the elements too while they're waiting for their bus. So I don't like the idea of just taking it out because there's trash there. I don't know what the answer is right now, but I don't want it just taken down just out of just because we can't control the trash. I think we need to work really hard with Metro to get them to pick up their trash.
The issue, and I hear that, and I hear you. It's become a congregation point, and people are really not in a position to be able to utilize it anyway. But EJ, any thoughts on this? What's your opinion?
Yeah, so the one thing I will point out, Council President, is the majority of the bus stops citywide actually do not have shelters. It's a very few that actually do have either a bench and or a shelter, compared to the total number of bus stops that there are. We do not see this problem largely, with one exception along Pack Highway, where there is not a shelter, even if there is a bench. So I hear your comment. We can certainly work with Metro to see if there's another way to address it. But at the 10,000 foot level, making them more like the structures that are throughout the rest of the city may be the best approach in the short term. And it may be a matter of looking to, is there a place where, as opposed to full out removal, that we could ask them to move it to a different stop. There's some conversations we need to have there with Metro, but at this point, it's going to take a somewhat drastic action to address the requests that we're getting to clean the area up from the community.
It's a bad location for a bus stop anyway, as you have people crossing 99 on rush hour. We've all seen it as we stood on
Yeah.
those corners. And I'm surprised we haven't had more accidents because people are not expecting to have to stop so soon as they're crossing 99. So it's a bad location for a bus stop, in my opinion, anyway. Maybe it could be moved somewhere else.
Yeah, and we'll talk to Metro about all that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll look for strategies to address. And I do think that you're absolutely right that we want to make sure that people that are, law-abiding and want to use the public facilities can and should be able to, the facilities they pay for. But we also want to make sure that we don't have a situation that's just spiraling, and that we need to get a hold of it at that location. That's a very chronic location. But also, like I said, the one at 324th, right next to O'Reilly's Auto Parts, is typically bad as well. Okay, all right. Moving on to consent agenda. These items have gone through committee. It can be passed all at once. I'll go ahead and read them off and ask if a council member would want an item pulled for separate consideration. Item 6A, the minutes for the February 16th, 2021 regular and special meeting minutes, February 23rd, 2021 special meeting minutes. B, AP vouchers, 11621 through 21521, payroll vouchers, 1121 through 13121. C, monthly financial report, final December 2020. D, Historical Society of Federal Way funding. Council, is there a particular item that a council member would want to pull for separate consideration? Hearing none, Council President Honda, do you have a motion with respect to A through D?
I move approval of items A through D on the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matters passed unanimously. All right, item 6, public hearing. Federal Way Link Extension Development Agreement Alteration number 2. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. We'll have a staff report from Ryan Midland, Sound Transit Liaison, and citizen comment for 3 minutes, and then City Council discussions and questions. Ryan, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, council members and council president as well. Tonight's the public hearing on the item some of us addressed at the LUTC last night, the second change to the Federal Way Link Extension Development Agreement. So the question tonight is, should the City Council approve the change to the Federal Way Link Extension Project Development Agreement between Sound Transit and the City of Federal Way? Starting with the project history and then going over what the changes are. This is the project history of how we got to where we are with the Federal Way Link Extension. Some of the key items are boldened. In 2019, the city adopted the project development agreement, which permitted the project to proceed into construction as a design build project. And also around 2019, the design process continued on the station area, and some problems were identified that Sound Transit has approached the city on resolving. So that said, most of the agreement, including key mitigation measures, process for Sound Transit selling any future surplus and property in the future, and the basis for the project's approval as an essential public facility remains the same as it was originally approved in the original project development agreement back in 2019. This second change to the agreement is about changes to select project elements and specific exhibits necessary for staff to move forward in permitting the final station area design. So what we have on the screen now is the concept that the original approval of the development agreement was based on. It included a number of project elements and station facilities, such as that bus terminal next to the station and a standalone parking garage. The original plan was found to have some operational and design shortfalls that could not be resolved. And when Sound Transit hired their design build contractor, they put forward an alternate concept that was starting to move forward. And this one was presented to the public at an open house in November of 2019, and maybe the one that people have seen the most frequently in 2019 and 2020. So both the city and the Sound Transit early on identified concerns with both pedestrian safety and the pedestrian experience. it keeps the existing bus terminal there and also introduced an extension to the parking garage instead of having a new parking garage. And so one of the key issues was that bus riders that will account for most of the people using the light rail were being dropped off next to the garage and still having to cross a higher number of lanes to get to the station. And it introduced a high number of points of conflict between pedestrians and buses or vehicles. And so part of the move to resolve this issue, and this is the final design that the changes that we're here to discuss tonight are based on. It moves the bus layover lots to a surface lot on the east side of 23rd, just behind the guideway there on the south side of 317th. And what that allows is it allows for a significant reduction in the number of lane crossings that people riding the buses or parking in the garage will have to do. It keeps the existing parking garage, or it keeps the proposed parking garage extension instead of a new parking garage, in order to retain the operational benefits that provided. And so this is the concept that the changes are based on. Pedestrian safety has been brought up a couple times, so just to show some numbers, ultimately what the new concept does is it results in a 35% reduction in total pedestrian lane crossings from that original concept and a 75% reduction in total pedestrian lane crossings from the contractor's concept, and also clearly drops the number of lanes to as low as 0 for people arriving by bus, which Sound Transit's environmental review work projects will account for a majority of light rail riders in the peak hours. So what are the key changes? The first, the significant new project element is the surface bus layover lot. It's being added at the southeast corner of 23rd and 317th. There are also some temporary bus layover spaces proposed at that new 317th Street extension that goes west from 23rd to 21st. Those temporary bus layover spaces are projected to remain in service until Tacoma Dome Link extension opens, which is currently scheduled for 2031. And then it would revert back to just standard public right-of-way. The original concept had the layovers being primarily located on that ground floor, and the contractors used that existing bus terminal. So this gets it out of the way, similar to what was accomplished with having it on the ground floor of the parking garage. But at the same time, the parking garage introduced some operational issues that couldn't be resolved. So this allows for the bus layover to work from a functional standpoint. Other key changes is it clarifies some language that the parking garage is now proposed to be an extension of the existing garage and not a new parking garage. Key fact is that the does not change the required number of new parking spaces for the station. So there will still be 400 new parking spaces provided on the north side of 320th between that parking garage extension and that short-term lot that you see down by the station. That is the number that the environmental review called for back in the original project development agreement, so nothing's changing that today. That's also changing some language regarding that extension of 317th and as well as the rebuild on 23rd. 23rd, it's adding 2 bus drop-off spaces for light rail riders to be dropped off on that side of the station as well. And on 317th, it's some language addressing stormwater management for both the existing garage as well as the parking garage extension. Also changing are 3 exhibits within the development agreement. The first is Exhibit B, which is the roadways. This is as simple as updating the drawings for the layout and the cross sections. Exhibit D doesn't change the purpose of that exhibit, which was to show areas where landscaping requirements are being modified to meet guideway clear zone requirements. Again, it's just updating the drawings to show where those modifications are required. And Exhibit P, similar to Exhibit D, nothing's changing in terms of the underlying concepts or principles from the original development agreement. but it's updating the drawings and the maintenance responsibilities as those have changed as the design has been refined, and the new layout introduces new maintenance responsibilities for both the city and Sound Transit. So some key facts and findings that are located in the ordinance is that Sound Transit and the city have a standing development agreement for this project, and these changes are limited to those necessary to allow the final design to be approved for permitting purposes. We think the new design improves both upon safety by reducing points of conflict between vehicles and pedestrians in the future station area. We also think that this will be a better pedestrian experience for both people arriving by garage and bus, future residents walking through the station area, and a pedestrian-friendly city center is something that's encouraged in the Federal Way Comprehensive Plan's City Center chapter at this time. And also included in there is a finding that Sound Transit is the lead agency for purposes of environmental review, and they have done the required analysis to verify that the new design is consistent with their environmental impact statement. So in summary, in 2016, we started reviewing a conceptual design that in 2019, the city entered a development agreement based on. The new design has been refined collaboratively between city staff, the contractor, and Sound Transit. However, it does require some changes to the project elements to execute the permitting of this design. And the question before the city council is whether to enact an ordinance allowing these changes to occur. And only changes noted in the ordinance attachment will be made. Everything else remains the same. So with that, option one would be to approve the ordinance, allowing the mayor to execute the agreement, change to the development agreement. Option two would be to not approve it. At this time, I would note that on the agenda, this is noted as a request to combine first and second reading by waiving City Council Rule 2.2H. Most of that is we are trying to save the taxpayers some money by helping the permitting process be more efficient for Sound Transit, as some of their contract provisions is based on how much work is available for the contractor to do at any particular time. So with that, LUTC did vote to support the ordinance last night, and the mayor recommends option one to approve the proposed ordinance. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Great. Can you please maybe take down the attachment? We'll see if any council members have questions.
Your mic's up, Mayor.
Councilmember Cefados.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ryan, for the presentation. So when we're talking about the projected lane change from like 2 to 4 lanes, bus lanes, to 0 to 4, what would the gridlock be like? Is it going to cause any problem?
So that was the number of lanes pedestrians would have to cross to get from from either the parking garage or where the bus is dropping them off to the station. Because obviously, the more pedestrians you have crossing, whether it's a bus lane or whether it's a vehicle lane, they're slowing down the vehicles and kind of introducing some operational inefficiencies, as well as, you know, the more crossings, the more opportunities for conflicts between the two. So what that table was showing was, in the concept that was presented in 2019 to the public, it required people to cross up to 4 lanes at a minimum, for example, to get to where they needed to go, whereas the new one ultimately reduces those number of lanes by 75% overall, and it's as low as 0 for people arriving by bus, because they get dropped off right at the station. So hopefully did that answer?
Okay, so I think I misunderstood. I thought we were reducing the number of lanes rather than reducing the crossing of pedestrians. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Right? Is that my understanding? Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. Council, any other questions?
Yes, I have a question, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Kraft.
Thank you for your presentation, Ryan. This is more of a general comment about sound transit. At the LUTC meeting last night, you mentioned that in order for residents to have their comments for sound transit to be required to respond to residents' comments, those comments need to be made at the sound transit public hearing. Am I right?
So that's about the operations and maintenance facility.
Right. I just wanted you to share that information here for the people listening.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a sidebar for this one, but for the operations and maintenance facility south, when that DEIS is released on Friday, comments need to be made to Sound Transit at their formal meetings for it to be in the record for Sound Transit to have to respond to it in their final environmental impact statement. So while, as Council President Honda noted, we'll be having a special meeting on the 16th for Sound Transit to present information and for them to hear the council's feedback, as well as anybody from the public that wishes to attend and speak, that while Sound Transit staff will hear that feedback in a literal sense, in order for it to be in the record and them to be required to respond to it for the environmental process, that will need to be made through specific channels that we'll make sure to get out there for the public.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay. All right. Stephanie, do we have any public comment on this?
No, Mayor, I don't have anyone signed up for public hearing.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So there's no citizen comment. We've had council questions and discussions. Ryan, thank you very much. This item will be on later on under ordinances for first and second reading and later in the agenda. Councilmember Baruso, do you have a motion with respect to the public hearing?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. I move to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding closure of the public hearing on this amendment? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? All right. The ayes have it unanimously. All right. Now on to item 7. And again, this will be under ordinances. Item 7, Council Business, Human Service Commission appointments. Council President Honda.
That will be Council Member Kochmar. It's her committee.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Kochmar.
That's okay. That's fine. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to announce the appointment of 7 folks, volunteers to our Human Services Commission. It's a very hardworking commission, primarily because they deal with the community development block grants every year, and it's difficult to go through all of the applications. So I'm always impressed by the quality of the people who apply to be on the Human Services Commission. So it's my pleasure tonight to make the following appointments to our commission. The first 3 will be for a term to expire January 31st, 2024. So the first 3 are Catherine Festa, Jack Walsh, and Sophia Mayo. Of the next position, the 4th position will be for a voting position with a term to expire January 31st, 2023. That would be Betty Taylor. And finally, the last 3 will be alternate positions. The alternate positions, the first of the third of the last 3 to be appointed with a term to expire January 31st, 2024. Alternate is Joseph Franco. The next one for an alternate position with a term to expire January 31st, 2023 is Eric Owen. And finally, to an alternate position with a term to expire January 31st, 2022 is Grace. And I'm Sespagawa. I'm really sorry. I don't want to massacre the name. So Grace, thank you very much for applying. Thank you all.
All right. So there's a motion for the nomination of all those individuals. It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding? That's great. Thank you. Is there any discussion regarding those nominees? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Congratulations to all those individuals willing to work on behalf of our community. All right, item B, Washington State Department of Transportation, or WashDOT, Traffic Busters Agreement Update. Staff presentation by Rick Perez, our City Traffic Engineer.
Thank you and good evening. Share your screen, please. Oh, didn't I do that? I thought I did. I'm sorry. Alt 10.
Tab.
Oh, tab 10.
Alt tab.
Alt tab. Okay.
And then share your screen.
Okay, where is this?
Far left side.
Okay. There we go. All right. No, that's not what I want to do. Yeah.
Share screen.
Share screen.
Middle of the screen.
There it is. All right. One of these days I'll get this stuff down. So good evening. I'm here to present the Traffic Busters Agreement update. Policy question is, should the council approve the proposed interagency agreement with WashDOT regarding the shared use of fiber optic cable for sharing traffic data? So WashDOT had paid the city to design and construct a segment gap in our fiber optic cable network in order to facilitate sharing traffic data. So the city agreed to operate and maintain the cable for improved capacity in order to communicate between City Hall and other facilities, our safe city network, and traffic signals. There was a 5-year duration allowing for one 5-year extension, which we have done. So this is the segment of the fiber optic, all this for just a 1/4 mile of cable, but they paid us to upgrade that. And so now it's time to update that agreement, extend it for another 5-year duration with another 5-year extension potential. So really the only difference between the original agreement and this one is that we eliminate the language regarding the design and construction funding because it's moot now. So options considered is 1, approve the proposed agreement, or 2, do not approve the proposed agreement and provide direction to staff. Mayor's recommendation was option 1, to approve the proposed agreement, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. And if you could, Rick, if you could take that down so we could take a look at the council.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Thank you. I'm sure there's a way I can do it, but there we go. All right. Do I see any hands up? I don't see any hands up. So no questions, council? Rick, as always, you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Brusso, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. I move approval of the proposed agreement and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement.
And that.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Matter passed unanimously. Thank you very much, Rick. Okay. Now moving on to item C. This is a long-standing item that we've been all working on, that everyone is well aware of. We received many public comments. The asbestos removal nuisance property contract at 29604 18th Avenue South. This is just due east of Pacific Highway, where Pacific Highway and Dash Point Road meets, but it's up a little bit higher in a neighborhood area, a home that's been burned out. I'll let Nick tell the story. We've got Nick Ruiz, who's got a PowerPoint and a presentation for you. Hi, Nick. Your screen's a little blurry.
Mayor Jason's over there helping him out now, getting started. This is his first time using this stuff, so
very good.
Please bear with him.
Okay, of course. Nick does a great job for us in code compliance and all the stuff he has, all the things we're doing around the city in regard to abatement of properties. And all right, Nick, you have the floor. We see your screen, and the floor is yours.
We're not getting any sound yet.
Uh-oh. I think he's rolling through like we can hear him. Nick, we can't hear you at all. We got to start from the beginning.
Yep, I'm getting in contact with Jason too. That's helping him.
There he is. Oh, I see the screen. Okay. We see you, Nick.
Give it a talk now.
Hello, Mayor Farrell.
Hey, there you are. Hey, how you doing, my brother?
Good, good. How are you tonight?
Good, good.
Good.
All right, you
Council
ready for your first?
President Honda, how you doing? Hope you're well. And members of the council?
Good, thanks.
Good, good. So I'm here to talk about the nuisance property at 29604 18th Avenue South, the infamous Yellow House. I'm sure Mayor knows about it, and I'm sure the various council members know about it and so forth. Anyway, the demolition was of the property was scheduled to happen in December. However, as part of the process of demolition, asbestos survey had to be conducted, and asbestos was found. So we had to resubmit it for a bid. So how do I go ahead?
Give it a left click on the screen there.
There you are.
Okay, so 3 bids were received, and it was awarded to American Abatement and Demo, which was the certified and lowest price and probably the most experienced. Cost of asbestos abatement was $27,541.25. So this property, as you know, has been occupied by squatters for over a year and a half and so forth. It's also had 2 fires, and it's just a consistent dumping nuisance property and so forth. So, and really that's about it. Of course we recommend that asbestos removal, prior to demolition and so forth. And you already know about the nuisance of the property and so forth. So really that's it. That's it as far as that goes.
Very good. All right. So, Nick, just a couple of quick things. We know that, you were like, you and your entire team were very involved in making sure that all the boards went up several months ago, right? So people couldn't get into the house.
Right. Because of the squatting issue and drug use, the city boarded it up. I think there were 6 of us, building inspectors and all pitched in and boarded it up. And police department, of course, evacuated the squatters from the property, but it was all boarded up, secured. And then another fire happened and so forth. And here we are again. And then we scheduled it for demo, like I said, in December. However, asbestos was found as part of the survey report. Yeah. And there we go.
Very good. Yeah, it's too bad we couldn't have got it done back in December. But look, quick question. My understanding is that no city employees were exposed to asbestos. Is that right?
No. Because it was all outside. Nobody went inside.
Very good. Okay. With that, I see Council President Honda. You've got a question?
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Nick, for your report. I appreciate it. I have a few questions. One, I've driven by that property probably every other week since we heard about it, just to monitor it, and garbage continues to pile up there. So when the building is taken down, and if garbage continues to pile up, do you know whose responsibility it will be to clean the garbage so that rats and things don't continue to be part of that neighborhood?
I know one thing that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You can.
I know one thing that we're going to do as part of the bid. We're going to place some 3 cement barriers to kind of deter it. But you're probably right. I think the dumping issue has a good chance of continuing. And I'm not sure how to answer that question. What's going to happen with that garbage? I'm not sure if it continues to be a dumping site. I don't have an answer to that on who's going to do that.
Well, we'll treat that. We'll treat that in the normal course with regard to, if on private property it becomes a code compliance issue. If we can't immediately ascertain an owner that's responsive, we would go on to the property and periodically take it up. I see Brian has joined us. Brian, do you have any answer for that?
Yeah, Mayor, you took the words out of my mouth.
Okay. Yeah, this happens a lot, you guys. Oftentimes, when there's either a burned out property or an abandoned or foreclosed property, and we just cannot find the owner, what we do is we go in and we'll take care of it. If there's any cost that's incurred to us, we can always seek to reimburse those from, or essentially place a lien on the property. But that would actually, seeking of a lien would actually require your approval. But we're not there yet. Simply taking away the trash and making sure that we keep an eye on the property will be important. I would say for anybody watching, and I talked to several neighbors, if anybody sees that occur, just tell us right away, and we'll get all over that. And that's why we're going to be reliant on the neighbors, who are great watchdogs on this. Council President Honda, did you have another question?
I do. So when this was initially brought up to us last fall, I think it was last fall, I know that there was a rush to get the property taken down, because of the neighborhood, and I certainly don't blame the neighbors. It is pretty unpleasant to be around. Why didn't we know that there was asbestos in the building ahead of time and worked with that instead of, because we did promise the neighborhood that we would take this building down much sooner than what has happened.
Yeah, I'll answer that. So asbestos is part of the review. We often don't find asbestos, in which case it can move forward. So that was our best answer at the time, that we wanted to move this through the council to get the funding approved for it, which we did. But unfortunately, asbestos was discovered, and so we had to go out. So it wasn't. I agree with you. It would have been nice to know that up front, but that isn't discovered until later.
So how was it discovered?
We're required to have it looked at, and so there was an initial finding that there was, and so then we had a full analysis done of identifying exactly where it was done, so that when they do the demolition, they know exactly where to deal with the asbestos before they start, tearing down the building and perhaps spreading contaminants to places that shouldn't be exposed.
Okay.
I would note.
Do we have a date?
Didn't we say there were two fires? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Weren't there two fires at that location? I think one of the things I was concerned about in discussing this is getting our people too deep into that house with the condition of the house was actually dangerous to our employees. So, and any potential contractors. So, it is unfortunate. I think that. Yeah. Go ahead, Council President Honda.
I'm sorry. It's on Zoom. I don't mean to interrupt people. It's just so hard to know when. Do we have a date then now to take the house down?
Yes, we do. Once the contract is signed, there's a 10-day waiting period. It's the EPA requirement that you wait 10 days. So say all the paperwork is signed on Friday, it'd be 10 days from that date that it could be taken down.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your work. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. Councilmember Moore.
Yep, that was my question that Council President Honda just asked. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Councilmember Baruso.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nick and Brian, just for information. So the hotspots in that house was particularly where for asbestos? Do you know?
Well, actually, the survey, because a certified asbestos removal lab actually does a survey. So what they do is they take samples from 16 areas of the house, including what they call the pool house. And so they found it, I believe, in about 4 or 5 different sections. So there was 2,500 square feet of asbestos that was found throughout the drywall. So all that has to come up and bagged.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Because I know the age of the house and things, sometimes you even have it in your flooring, things like that. But that's the older drywall did have that in there. So I just kind of want you to highlight that so folks knew.
Yeah, it was in the roofing, in the drywall, in the insulation, and also in the window glazing in the pool house.
Thank you, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see here. Councilor Bursa, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. I move approval of the proposed contract with American Abatement and Demo LLC to remove asbestos and authorize mayor to execute the contract.
I'll second that.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously. Great job, Nick. You got through it, and great job, Brian. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, staff.
And Nick, make sure you tell your team, we all of them, we said thank you very much for all the work that's been done on that property with the boarding up and all of that. We really appreciate it. That boarding up was done by our folks in a very rapid way, so we really appreciate it.
All that work was done in one day.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
and we
it
were really
happened
worried.
fast.
We were really worried about people getting in there. It was actually a very dangerous condition. Okay, item D, resolution, NCPA cooperative purchasing contract. We'll have a staff presentation for Thomas Fitchner, our IT director.
Good evening, Mayor, Council President, Council members. My name is Thomas Fickner with the IT department here in City of Federal Way. Before you tonight is two contracts I get to present on. The first one being the NCPA, or National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance contract. I enjoy actually bringing these before you because it allows greater flexibility for the city to procure goods and services off of. In this particular instance, there are over 90,000 agencies nationwide, both from the public and nonprofit sectors that utilize this contract, ranging from school districts, higher education, healthcare, church, nonprofit, and other government agencies. In our particular region, participating agencies include like Auburn, City of Auburn, Valley Communications, City of Tacoma, Pierce County, and King County. This will allow us to procure items that have already been pre-bidded on and are pre-bid on, and it helps kind of alleviate that, and it's a known trusted source. Any questions?
Council, any questions? Okay, I don't see any questions. All right, Councilor Bertrand, do you have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the proposed resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. Resolution, Texas DRO. Good job, Thomas. A resolution, Texas DIR cooperative purchasing contract. Thomas.
All right, so this one is a very similar process, only it is a different contract by a different agency. And this particular one is the Texas Department of Information Resources that also maintain a cooperative purchasing agreement. Again, same with the last one. It's different various goods and services that we can procure off of it. And in some cases, there are certain vendors or certain manufacturers that provide stuff on certain contract vehicles. That's why there isn't like a one-size-fits-all approach to this. So there are different contract vehicles that allow us. So this particular one is used on a variety of agencies nationwide. Here locally, City of Des Moines, Linwood, Richland, Yakima, as well as Snohomish County and Pierce County, and Highline College and Renton Technical College all use this one. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions? Okay. Councilmember Tran, do you have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the proposed resolution.
Second.
Second.
It's been a motion. It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Passes unanimously. All right, ordinances. First to second reading, item A, Council Bill 799, Federal Way Link Extension Development Agreement, alteration number 2. And at this stage, one sec, we will have a staff presentation. Actually, the staff presentation information provided during the public hearing. Mr. Midland is available for additional questions. Is there any public comment, Stephanie?
No, Mayor, I don't have anyone signed up for public comment for this.
Okay. Councilmember Baruso, do you have a motion with regard to Council Rule 2.2H?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. I move to suspend Council Rule 2.2H to allow first reading and enactment of the ordinance in one meeting.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 799, Federal Way Link Extension Development Agreement Alteration Number 2, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington, approving a change to the Federal Way Link Extension Project Development Agreement between the City of Federal Way and Sound Transit.
Okay. Let's see here. Councilmember Baruso, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. I move approval and adoption of the proposed ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously. Great job. Okay, we are now done with the regular business. Oh, I'm sorry. No. Now we're on to the next item, second reading and enactment, item B, Council Bill 798, Speed Limit Ordinance Amendment. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 798, Speed Limit Ordinance Amendment, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington, relating to speed limits amending Federal Way Revised Code 8.30.040.
All right. Councilmember Baruso, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
All right. There's been a
Second.
motion and a second. All right. Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right.
Aye.
All right. Matter passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We are now on to item 9, council reports. We will start with Councilmember Cefados.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for a great meeting, and I have nothing to report on.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And now we've got Councilmember Baruso.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep this one short. Just remind everyone this is Women's History Month. So I'm served and dedicated to commemorating encouraging the study and observation of women in what they've done and their achievements, and also to think about how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected all of us. And I can say for myself, one important woman two women in my life is my mom and my wife. And that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of things to share with you. So my report is going to be a little bit longer than usual. So the first one is kind of public announcement. Lately, my agency received a lot of complaint about people when they apply for benefits online or on phone are being asked to pay a fee. So I just want to share with the public that all of our benefit programs that managed by DSHS never require you to pay a fee to apply. So there are some programs, once you qualify, you might be required to pay a copay. For example, childcare program will require you to pay certain copay. But just for applying, we never ask people to pay. So if that happened to you, please let us know and do not pay anyone when you want to apply for DSHS program. The two other things that I want to share with you is kind of COVID related stories, but they are positive, I promise. So the first one is, so last Sunday, I went to a local grocery store here, and I was just walking around, and I noticed that a couple of adult people and some kids running around without masks. I mean, they just simply just don't have masks. So part of me was like, you know what, let's just pay and go home and not say anything. But then a part of me was like, no, this is my city. This is my people, right? This is my neighbors. and I decided that I have to say something. So I went to a cashier and I politely asked if I can talk to a manager in charge. And a few minutes later, the manager came out and I introduced myself and I shared with her my concern. And I again politely asked if she can enforce the mask by reminding people to wear masks. And I was so surprised and I was so glad that she said, you know what, you are absolutely right. Thank you for let us know about this. We on it. And she got together with some of her staff and tracked out these individual. And I thought that was a wonderful, wonderful, story that I want to share. Uh, you know, Despite the fact that the vaccine are here, the fact is that less than 15% of our population have been vaccinated. So we still have a long way to go. And with this new variant from South Africa and the UK variant, uh, we're not out of the wood yet. So I would encourage the public to continue to practice social distancing, wear masks when you are out in the public, because this thing are very very dangerous, and until most of us vaccinated, we're not out of the wood yet. So the second story I'm gonna share with you, my wife probably will kill me for this, but but I'm gonna share anyway. Hopefully she's not watching. So last Sunday again, uh, my wife received a phone call from a friend that work in the healthcare industry. Uh, I'm not gonna name any name, but basically, this person offered my wife, who is a high risk. She is a transplant patient, so she's high risk, uh, to get the vaccine on Sunday. And she said, "Well, no, I know that I'm high risk, but according to the face finder, I'm not qualified uh, to get the vaccine at this time, uh, because right now we are in tier one, 1B." And she explained to the friend that she doesn't want to cut the line, even though she worried for her health, but she said, "No, thank you, but I'm gonna wait for my turn." So after I came home and she shared that story with me, and I said, you know, I am so appreciative of what you did. I'm so proud of you, and you did the right thing by not cutting the line. So the moral of the story, the reason I wanted to share is that I am asking the public, if you have special connection or you know to cut the line, please don't, because by not doing that, you are actually saving lives, for saving the vaccine for somebody that really really need it. So I am so thankful that my wife did not take the offer, and I'm so proud of her for not doing it. So with that, I conclude my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Great. Thank you very much. Councilmember Kraft.
Thank you so much for sharing those stories, Councilmember Chan. Those were really great to hear, and how honorable of your wife to choose not to skip the line, because I know that there have been so many people out there that have skipped the line, and hospitals and organizations have gotten in trouble for allowing people to skip the line. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you to your wife. Councilmember Baruso took the words out of my mouth. Happy Women's History Month. Please, I would encourage everybody in the community to celebrate this month by buying from a women's owned business, learning about a notable woman who you didn't know about before. But on another note, I will say that this was briefly mentioned during council report last month, but hate crimes against Asian Americans are still rising nationwide. We hear those stories and the attacks are pretty serious. Personally, in King County, we haven't had referrals that have been that scary, but that doesn't mean that that's not happening out there right now. It could just mean that these hate crimes aren't being reported. So if you are out there and you hear not just crimes against Asian Americans, but if you know of any hate crimes, or if you hear concerning stories, please always feel free to reach out to law enforcement and report those incidents. If you don't feel comfortable talking to law enforcement, you could always send me an email and I could get you into contact with somebody else to report those crimes. We can't really help if the crimes aren't being reported. So that's just a PSA from me. So with that, I'll end my report. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Not much for me to report other than to say thank you to the Diversity Commission for their efforts in creating an atmosphere where books can be read that were focused on African Americans and Black individuals. So to promote Black History Month, I think obviously we've recently heard that. And if I understood it correctly, that there could be more books that share stories of African American and Black people, and quite frankly minorities as well. And so I was pleased to see that program. I was excited to read my book up until I found that someone else had written. I can't talk right now, Mr. Mayor. What I'm trying to say is when someone else has already read that very same book. But thank you to Councilmember Kraft for allowing me to read that book. It is back on your desk at City Hall. Thank you. And so also want to take the time to acknowledge Women History Month. I think our society can always do a better job of uplifting marginalized communities, uplifting our minority communities, and really just celebrating that, because we as one human being are pretty incredible. And so in this case, this month, we promote women. We honor the importance that women play in public office, and play in policy making, and the law field, and every other field that I'm just not thinking of. Obviously we pay our respects in the hardships that they have faced from the 1800s and on. And what a testament it is for women to rise up and to fight for their rights. But obviously, as one human being, as a male, I understand that it's not just women; it is marginalized communities that have had to fight hard to get a seat at the table, and to fight for equality, to make sure that all human beings are truly created and treated equally. So that's that. And then I think that, believe it or not, Mr. Mayor, is the end of my report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Councilmember Kochmar.
Well, Mayor, when you're last and everyone else has spoken, there's not much left to report. So I have no report other than to say I'll be very happy when we can open up our businesses again and our schools. And I'm looking forward to that, as well as the peanut butter sandwich I'm going to get to eat when this meeting is over.
Very good. Hear, hear. Okay. Council President Honda.
Okay, well, I don't want to keep Councilmember Kochmar from her dinner, so I don't have much. I do want to let people know, unless it's been canceled, and I don't think it has, that March 3rd, which is tomorrow, is a shredding day. The city has been doing paper shredding about once a month. And this event will be at City Hall, which is located at 33325 8th Avenue South by the Community Center. If you know where the Community Center is, you can find City Hall It's limited to 2 boxes or 3 bags of paper from 10 to 2. You stay in your car. You don't have to get out of your car and have any contact. So I've been to the last 2 shredding events, and they are certainly well attended by the public. But the complaint I've heard is people hear about it after the event, and they want to know more about it before so that they can make it to the event and get their paper shredded. And tomorrow is also Girls' Day. We celebrate in the Japanese culture. We have one daughter who's in Hawaii and one little granddaughter in Iowa. So they're very special to us, as all of our children are. Also, for everyone who's mentioned women, and that this is March's Women's Month, we have for the last 2 years in Federal Way had a proclamation in March for women in elected office, and we're going to be doing that again at the next council meeting. In Federal Way, I think we're a little unusual when it comes to how many women are in elected offices. If you look at our council, we have 4. When I got on council, there were 5 women on council. We have 3 on the school board. We have 1 on the water commission as a water commissioner. So we're pretty special, I think, in Federal Way, where we recognize that women can be leaders and we are good leaders. So we will celebrate women in elected office at our next council meeting. So men do a good job too, but you know, there's something special about women. When we work together, we get things done. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for being here at 4:30 council. I know it's a long day, and then we don't have time to eat dinner because we have to be here so early, but thank you all very much.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Great meeting, everyone. And it's an honor to serve with you. And I believe with that, we are adjourned. Have a nice evening.
Good night.
Have a good evening.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.